Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
oh, so Pat O is sick again, or still sick, or I don't think he ever got better. I don't know. I'm not sure. Are you dying?
No, well, no, I'm okay. As I just told you before we got on the air, as I just told you, I didn't want to talk about this on the air. Waste
I know.
everyone's time. I'm fucking get into it anyway. No, my family was sick. I was like adjacent to it, but I wasn't. I didn't absorb the full blast of it. Uh, we all got COVID tested several times. I had a COVID test on fucking Friday, and I'm negative, so it's definitely not COVID, but it's definitely something. And my son and I went to go see Venom, Let There Be Carnage last night, which was mediocre at best. And we split a pop, and now I've fully absorbed his germs, and I have a nasty head cold. I think I'm actually going to take tomorrow off at work, though, and like just drink a whole bunch of cough syrup all day and Robotrip
That sounds cool.
and just knock it out of my system. There was a meme that was going around when COVID first started that I absolutely loved. I don't think anyone loved it nearly as much as me. And it was like, Stoner promises to take a bunch of mushrooms and reason with the virus. And I was like, if I was 19, that's something I would have tried.
Son of a bitch, that might work.
Yeah,
Well,
I 100% it would have. What do you
we
what do
had
you
we had our buddy Big Dill on the show, and well, my buddy Big Dill on the show a while back, and Dill, his thing is he tells everybody the cure for COVID is to drink. He's like, I drink. He's like, I drink pretty much every night, and I haven't got COVID, so that's his logic. He's not serious, but don't actually become an alcoholic for COVID. But
right.
anyway, how was your weekend? You did something really exciting this weekend, didn't you?
Oh, I guess it was exciting. Yeah, I did my sixth or seventh 48-hour film project, and we pulled super. So how it works, in case you're not familiar, is a bunch of teams all over the city meet up Friday night, and at 7 p.m. they draw genres of movie. And then everyone is handed a prop, a character, and a line of dialogue that they need to incorporate. And they have from 7 p.m. on Friday until 7 p.m. on Sunday to make a 5 to 7 minute short film that can of the genre that you've been handed, that contains the prop, character, and line of dialogue that you've been handed.
Right.
So how this usually works is Friday night between 7 p.m. and midnight, we'll write, and then Saturday morning, from whenever we wake up until about 4 or 5 p.m., we shoot. And then from Saturday afternoon until Sunday early Sunday afternoon, we will edit. And then the last little bit, we go and we drop the stuff off and we fill out all the paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork involved with this. And if I mean, I know by now because I've done it so many times, but that's a big part of it too, because everybody that acts in it or has anything to do with it has to sign a waiver. You need location release forms. You need release forms for all the music that you use. It's just a lot of shit involved with it. So this year I was handling the lion's share of it. Well, that's not actually true. I had a local comedian, Whitney Wasson, whom you should follow her on Instagram. She has a web comic called Sober Rabbit that she does that's funny. I had her on one of my older podcasts and got to know her, and we're kind of friends. So I'd asked her to write it, and then I'd filmed it with some actor buddies of mine, and then at the last minute brought in an editor because lots of different reasons. I mean, do you want to hear me like talk shit, or do you just want like the rundown of what happened? Because I'll sit here and spill the tea and get into it about who fucked up what when.
I
Or I could
mean,
just give the very general overview of everyone worked hard and had a good time, and I'm glad it's over, and I can't wait
there
till
you
next
go.
year.
You give me the tea after the show.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it was all right. I think the most notable things about this weekend is that it was a predominantly female cast and crew. There was about 14 people involved, and 10 of them were female, and 4 of them were men. So I did that on purpose. I'm trying to get away from just a bunch of dudes sitting around making movies because it's old, it's boring. You know what I mean? When you get to be my age, you realize you don't really have much to say that hasn't been said by people for decades. And if you're somebody that's that likes to hear new and interesting things, you need to give them pass the microphone to new and interesting voices. So I make a point to try to involve, non-binary women or people of color, not just fucking Irish white dudes from the south side of Chicago. We already got one Edward Burns. We don't need more. So that was that. What else? It was a good time. And there was one point where when we were kind of like halfway done filming, and we were sitting there eating churros because someone ran to a Mexican bakery and got some churros. And one of my friends was like, why haven't you done a full length yet? And I was like, well, and I kind of did the whole spiel about everything. And they were like, yeah, but like you should really do that, because I think the way they put it is, why don't you make a movie for real?
Well, I mean, which is a good compliment,
Yeah, and it was after they watched me like direct all morning, so it was like obviously they were sitting there watching me do this and be like, "Wow, Pat knows how to do this. Why doesn't he like do it?" And I gave my usual excuses, but
Right.
it's definitely kind of stuck with me where I'm like, why don't I? So I think after my current goal is not to take on any new projects. Like I have a couple things that like are already midway. Like we got the D&D book, and I got this podcast and all the shit like that. But I'm definitely like trying to clear the plate, and like I think that's what I need to do. I think I need to like take things as they come, like what's already in motion, keep in motion, and see through to the end.
Sure.
And then November's NaNoWriMo. I'm going to be doing that, but like not busy myself with all these kind of smaller things, and then kind of try to write something or come up with an idea for a full length. And I think maybe I should really make an effort to do that, because I love short films. I've talked about why I go this route in the past. I'd rather explore 15 5-minute ideas than one 75-minute idea. But at this point, I've explored smaller ideas 15 times, and that's even boring to me. And I think the new thing now is I need to, if I really want to keep moving forward, there's only really one thing left to do at this point, and it's to kind of do this for real. And that's what I think I need to do, but
I think that you should. I mean, I'm all for it.
yeah.
I think that it would be really neat, and I don't know, maybe I'll be in it. We'll see.
I made you associate producer on this too, so you'll get your first bullshit IMDb cred, which is a staple of any filmmaker's career.
I was 100% absolutely not involved at all in this, but thank you.
Hey, everything I do is inspired by you to some extent.
Wow. Well, thank you. Well, then make a whole feature-length film inspired by me.
Right.
You can even say it's based off of true events, and we can pretend that you could like make a movie about my life, or like what you perceive my life is. It's just me getting hit in the face with a bunch of dicks for 2 hours.
I do. I liked it. So, like, this one was a little smutty. I mean, I sent it to you. Did you watch it?
No, I haven't yet watched it yet.
Don't fucking worry about it. But the last scene is definitely the part that's the most me, and it's not overwhelmingly smutty, but everything I shoot has a strong male gaze to it.
Sure.
And I was telling the actresses, like, I don't objectify you, but I am empowering you to amplify your own sexuality.
Oh, come on.
Like,
wow.
I value you as a person. I know you have a lot to offer as an actress, but you wore that shirt here today, and I'm going to film it the way that people want to look at it. So,
I mean, yeah, that's definitely on them at that point. No, I think we should do it. No, in all seriousness, that's one thing. A lot of people don't make it because they just give up, or they hit a stopping point where they get kind of burnt out on everything that they're doing, and they just don't try something new. And that's the thing about when you're an artist, you're kind of figuring yourself out, and it takes time. It takes time to perfect that art. And it's very cliche, but you look at all the greats out there. Most people don't get their big break until way later in life. It just happens, or maybe they don't. Fuck, maybe you made one video and you went viral on the internet. Who cares? I mean, you just
Right.
have to do it. You have to do it. You're not gonna, you miss every shot you don't take. So, uh,
Yeah, and at this
I'm
point,
with
I've
you.
done the short film thing so many fucking times, and I've had it go good and I've had it go bad. And the thing is, they're not going to go any better than they've already gone. And all I'm going to do is kind of degrade the momentum that I had if I keep doing the
Right,
same trick over and over again.
right,
I'm really at the point where I need to either level up or sit the fuck down. And the problem with these 48-hour things, it's like the whole timing aspect of it is like your best friend and your worst enemy. It's good because it propels you to do this thing in this amount of time, and you know that you're going to start on Friday, you know that you're going to be done on Sunday, you know that all you have to do is clear this one weekend and that's it. And for a lot of people that's good because it puts the blinders on them, right?
right,
But in a lot of respects, like, it also works against you because there's a lot of things about this film that we did that could be better if I had more time to work on it. And instead it's like this thing that I would call like a C plus,
right,
when all it would really need to be like a B plus or A minus is another 24 hours,
right.
right? But it doesn't. And I could go back and film more stuff or do whatever, but we're not going to do that.
Sure.
So like, it just kind of is what it is. And like, I can't keep making like these 48-hour movies because I don't think I really shot too much after last year's 48 hour. So it's just one of those things where, like, look, I can't just keep doing these yearly competitions
Right.
and stroking myself and telling everybody I'm a fucking
Well, and
filmmaker.
I mean, this time last year is when you came onto the podcast, and you started that project, and now we've gotten that pretty well hammered out. We're in the groove of it. We know what we're doing now. So you got room. You got room for something else.
Are you telling me I should move on?
No, you're not. You're not allowed to quit.
I'm not. I would never quit.
And I'm not firing you.
I
So,
wake up in a cold sweat like at least twice a week, thinking that you're going to get rid of me for like Kinsey or
oh,
something.
I wouldn't
That's
do
my
that.
biggest fear. I'm like,
I
she's going to
listen.
realize this show would be twice as popular if she had a female co-host that had bigger tits than me.
Listen, I love Kinsey, but no, you're one half of the show now. It's just this is now your destiny, so it's been chosen by me. Um,
Ride or die, bitch. Let's do it.
and we talked about this earlier. I'm a woman, so you can't argue. So anyway, anyway, well, no, that's great. I'm glad this has definitely like reinvigorated you a little bit. I have also felt pretty reinvigorated on some of the things that I'm doing lately, and that's really, really exciting, actually. But in case you guys didn't know, let's talk about it. Uh, well, we opened up the call line finally.
Yes, you did.
And yes, I did. I did.
I love it. I fucking love it.
And no, it's been a wonderful success so far. People are so excited about it. You guys are awesome about sharing your stories. I'm not going to play any for this episode because I just kind of woke up one day and decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing this, and I opened it, and I just kind of wanted to see how it went, and it's going really good. It's going to become part of every episode, but I have to figure out the logistics of how to make that work for the show. That's okay. So it should be starting next week. We'll finally have some of these on here. But if you guys are interested, if you want to share your paranormal encounters, maybe you've seen a cryptid, maybe you've seen a UFO, maybe you were abducted by aliens. I don't care. Maybe you just have a weird doppelganger story, or maybe you've experienced the Mandela effect, or maybe you had a time slip, or who knows, whatever weird shit that's happened in your life, maybe something crazy, maybe your uncle is a serial killer, just share it with us. Call the show, tell us about it. We'll play it on the show. We'll talk about it. If you have show topic ideas, if you just want to call and say that maybe you want me to fire Pat, I don't know. I mean, call and talk about it. Whatever your heart's content, whatever your heart tells you to do, you can call us at 773-59-WEIRD, and you can talk about anything and everything weird.
So now, how do you spell weird? Because I know that throws a lot of people.
What do you mean? How do I spell weird?
I mean, no, because like if you were to ask me how to spell weird, I'd have to stop for a second and make sure that the E goes before the I. It's 773-599-3473. That's 773 599-3473.
That's correct. Yeah, that is what it is. And you know, for the record, it's WEIRD. How do you not know how to spell weird? It's in the title of the show. How do you not know how to
Yeah,
spell
but
weird?
I transpose like I before E and shit.
Now, you know what? You're right. I'm not gonna shame anybody. You know, speech is a thing, and some people struggle with it. But you're right. You're correct. But I'll
I'm not
put both.
fucking dyslexic.
You know, I'm not saying you are, but other people are. So I mean, I don't want to seem like an
Okay,
asshole to dyslexics. I love you
sure.
guys. You know, so all of you. You know, so anyway, I'm gonna put it in the description. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see this number pretty much every single day on all my social medias. So there's that. Um, but yeah, you can call the show. Also, um, buy some merch. Like, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you buying merch? Not one single person has taken a fucking picture with their fanny pack, and I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, I know. I gotta
Nobody's
get
bought a
better
fanny
about
pack
that.
yet.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life? Huh? What are you doing? You got to be ready for festival season next year when it comes up. You got to get yourself, and on Wednesdays we talk weird fanny pack, and then get yourself a Jersey Devil T-shirt.
You know
There's
what?
yeah.
I know a guy that and I wouldn't mind throwing down a little cash for this. You can like there's internet like Instagram models where you can send them your t-shirt and then pay them to take a picture in it. So
I mean,
it's like a really hot chick like wearing like your t-shirt and he does it for all of his merch too.
why would you pay somebody to do that when like I can take pictures in the shirt? What? I mean, what?
I
Huh?
think it would be funny to get like a trans performer to take a picture with a fanny pack. So like they're naked, they got nice tits, they're wearing the fanny pack, and they got a
In
big old
just the
hog
fanny
hanging
pack.
out.
That would be a really good idea. Listen,
Yeah.
if you're a trans woman and you want us to pay you a little bit of money and get a free fanny pack,
Yes,
no, you know what?
one
No,
hundred percent.
I want somebody, anybody. I don't care who buys the fanny pack. Just buy it, take a picture, so I can see. It'll make my heart happy, and you guys want to make me happy, and you should just do it. But anyway, merch link is down below. Make sure you go there and buy some because I don't make any money off this, so I need to make some money off this, guys. Get on it. Get on top of it. Get down there. Buy some merch. Anyway, that's all I was plugging for the week, really. Let's talk about kind of what's been going on. I don't have news really this week, but except I kind of do. That was the news, the call line. But let's talk about what happened Monday.
The Facebook thing.
The Facebook thing. So full disclosure, guys, we don't record the show on Wednesdays. I know you hear it on Wednesdays. Maybe you don't. Maybe listen to it on Saturday. I don't care. I don't give a shit as long as you listen. You know, that's all that
Right.
matters. But Monday, which is October 4th, Facebook went down for like a bunch of hours. Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp went down for like 6 hours
So yeah.
or something like that. And I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what happened. There's lots of conspiracies being thrown out there about what may or may not have happened. I don't think they've said yet. Right now it's about 7:30 Eastern time on Monday, so we don't know a lot of information, I don't think. But I don't know, Pat, you got anything you want to share about the
Yeah, I mean basically it's back up now, so the storm has passed. I did have to check in with friend of the show Mike Vanderbilt because he's Twitter banned right now.
Oh yeah.
So with Facebook and Instagram being down, that boy had no fucking social media this afternoon. And I don't know how he was getting his validation. For all I know, he was standing on a street corner in California raisin costume waving at cars.
He might
But
have like actually
hopefully he
like shriveled up
survived.
and died without his validation.
He well,
That makes
he's very
sense.
much like Tinkerbell. If you don't doesn't get applause, he fucking dies. But I texted him to see if he's okay, and he hasn't responded yet, which means absolutely
Oh
nothing
no.
because he only responds to 1 out of every 17 of my texts anyway.
Sure.
But
He's got to text him 17 times to make sure he's okay.
yeah, well, it's just a roll of the dice. Sometimes he says anyway. But I guess the way I looked at it was this: like, okay, like number one, like Facebook is down because Facebook goes down, and it happens, and it's
Right.
happened historically. Now, this was a long time. Usually, it's like an hour or two when it goes down. Um, this was closer to 7, I believe, but like, yeah, it was it was an outage. Outages happen, right? Um, possibility number 2 was that last night there was a expose on 60 Minutes, or we should just say this week. This week there was an expose on 60 Minutes about a whistleblower that came forward to talk about some of the algorithms that Facebook was using, or more importantly, not using, to filter out and block some of the hate speech that Facebook is notorious for promoting. And also there's some kind of like study that was done with like in regards to Instagram and how it was affecting young girls' like self-esteem or something. I don't know. I wasn't watching 60 Minutes. I was catching the flu for my son and Venom. Let there be carnage. But so anyway, 60 Minutes, the special premiered Sunday night. Tuesday they were supposed to go in front of the Senate or some kind of like congressional hearing or something. And the idea is that maybe the outage today was a way to scrub the servers or something, or there was something they were taking off.
Right.
That was another possibility. What I personally like to believe, and if you're a fan of internet horror stories, you're familiar with creepypasta. Well, here on Wednesdays we talk weird. We have what did I stoner bullshit macaroni.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. Yeah.
So my stoner bullshit macaroni explanation for this is that something got posted. Don't know what it is. Don't know if it pertains to the missile tests, North Korea, or the Russian fucking sub stuff, or if it was a UFO video, or if it was God knows what. But something got posted to Facebook. And before it could go viral, before it could be shared, they hit the fucking kill switch.
And they were like, nope.
They took it down and they went through and they deleted all traces of it. Who saw it, who shared it, who viewed it. Okay, we have it localized, we have it neutralized. Okay, bring it back on, and it's gone without a trace. Now that's what I believe. I think Facebook just went down. But if I'm going to entertain any idea, because doing some kind of like information scrub the day after the shit premiered on 16 Minutes, you mean this? You didn't know that this shit was going to be on the news last night? Like, come the fuck on!
Right?
I don't.
No.
Yeah, the idea that this would be. Yeah,
Oh,
the idea that this would be a reaction to anything that was broadcast, anything that like aired on a nationally broadcasted fucking news magazine show. I don't know, but I think what we know about the internet, how it works, and how it works in other countries. I think the idea of there being a kill switch that can be employed in times of extreme, like holy shit, to stop things from being spread is a possibility. And I think that might be what we saw today.
Now, I'm not going to disagree with you. I had no idea any of this was happening. I mean, believe it or not, I'm not like I seem like I'm on social media a lot, but I'm really not on social media that much. But I had no idea, and I still don't really know exactly what happened. So, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for more information to come out. It was really weird because it wasn't just Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. Other people are having issues with other things too. Now, it could have just been they were having overloaded servers because people were on that shit. I know we have the Discord for the Clubhouse crew. And it was kind of hilarious and kind of wholesome because everybody's over there and we're just, asking each other stupid questions. And like everybody got a ridiculous amount of work done today. And, our group chat, we got a group text chat that, we talk in and we were all just, I don't know, sending each other, pictures and, just goofing off and talking to each other. I mean, it's really fucking sad though that that's how it is. Like, you can't really have that every day because everybody wastes so much time on the social media that people don't even realize. Which I enjoyed that people kind of got away from it for a minute. But, as far as it being weird, it was kind of strange. It was kind of scary for a minute. But I don't know. I mean, it's over now. So.
Right. Because you don't know. It creates, when something like that happens, something unexpected, something that is away from the norm, you don't know if it's going to start a chain reaction of other weird shit happening.
Right.
And what could happen next that wasn't supposed to happen today? I mean, it could snowball from here. I was talking to one of my friend of the show. I won't say her last name, but Ashley, the other Ashley that I talked to, and she was like convinced that fucking this was it. Like, she was going to leave work today, and in 72 hours from now, she'd be fighting for water with her husband in the streets of Blue Island.
Oh.
Like, and those are my words, not hers. She's not that much of a lunatic, but I don't know. I guess, is there some kind of astronomical event going on right now as well, or like last week?
Yeah. There's 6 planets in retrograde right now.
She's been talking about this nonstop, and I barely pay attention to it because I don't follow the stars. But I think she thought that like that had something to do with this as well, and this was it. It was a culmination of a bunch of different things, and we had been talking about this, and she had like this ominous feeling about things for the past couple of days, and then when this happened, it was like proving her right, and she was like, "This is fucking it," and I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll just kind of see," and then I don't know, but I'm not dogging on her. Sorry,
Sure.
actually, I'm not picking on you. But
I understand. No, it's fine. You are. It's fine. No, you're not. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, there are a lot of planets in retrograde right now. Shit's been hard for everybody. If you think things have been hard, it's because they have been hard. So that's not just you being weird. It's just that everybody's going through it right now. But I don't know. Like you said, social media goes down. It could have been anything. It was kind of weird that it took so long, and considering where we are right now in the timeline of things, we don't know much. So, we just got to wait and see. So that's where we're at with it. But that's really all I don't have anything to share this week.
Yeah, no, that's all I got. What else was there? I have one of my notes that says, "What else this weekend?" Read tweet, and I have no fucking clue what tweet I was referring to. Oh, speaking of which, hold on, one more thing I want to read because you brought it up earlier too.
Okay.
Someone who I absolutely adore, my favorite adult performer, Bailey J, and her partner, and I forget his name, but I follow him on social media as well. They do a podcast together, and she's really into the paranormal. Bailey J. I don't know if you're familiar with her that much, but I called into her podcast once to talk about life on Mars and did my whole alien
podcast
spiel.
called?
I can't even remember, but it's one of what she would Bailey. I don't know, because it's not around anymore now. It's like Patreon only, where you have to pay for it, which I'm sure enough people do. And I don't, because she's got enough money. I support people on Patreon, but not people that already have multiple homes. But anyway, I still follow them on Twitter, and her partner Matt posted this Saturday morning, and I thought it was so good that I shared it. And so I wanted to mention it in the opening. Narcissism is so prevalent in this country that instead of admitting that we were wrong about certain facts, such as not knowing Nelson Mandela wasn't dead, many people reshape reality to create an alternate dimension hypothesis, the Mandela effect, to try and explain it.
Okay.
And I was like, God damn, that's good. Because I'm one of those people that has never been a fan of the Mandela effect, and that your evil twin Ashley, who I was talking about earlier, me and her go back and forth about this all the time because she's a huge fan of it, and I'm like, you're fucking nuts. But I'm not a fan of the Mandela effect. I think it's exactly what this guy said. It's narcissism. Rather than admitting that you were just fucking wrong about something, you misremembered a detail. People go to the opposite end of the spectrum and create this fucking story about, reality being altered. And I just
and you know what? I'm gonna have to agree with you a little bit there. So, the thing is that I've experienced this before, and it's weird. But I mean, everybody says that they've experienced it, but like, there's a lot of shit that I can let go of. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I remember being a kid and looking at the Berenstain Bears book and sounding it out and looking at the spelling and knowing that it was Berenstain.
Right.
And I thought it was weird then because everybody else called them the Berenstein Bears. God damn my fucking neighbors. I swear to God, I'm gonna punt their child. Anyway. On my regular people job, I work from home, and all fucking day long, you can hear my goddamn neighbors all day. It's great. Anyway, so if you hear them on the show, I mean, that's, when you stop hearing them, that's when you know that there's been a problem. Anyway, So no, I remember it being Berenstain, and so I remember growing up and everybody's like, no, it's Berenstain, and I remember that. And like, I've looked at the other examples and I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. It was the John Keel thing that fucked with me. And I talked about it on the show before where I went to go look up something specifically about John Keel and I typed his name into Google and Google corrected me. And it didn't make any fucking sense because I had been extensively researching this man for a whole year. I knew how to spell his fucking name, but apparently I didn't. I don't know what happened. Something was weird. So I knew Keel spelled as Keele with an E at the end. There's no E at the end. It's just Keel. And it blew my fucking mind because there was no way. There was no fucking way. I look at the cover of this man's books all the time. There was no way I had it wrong. But somehow I did. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the the Mandela effect. But I can definitely see where that could play a part. People don't like to be wrong about shit. And I actually got into an argument on social media over the weekend. It was great. With
Just
somebody
one?
just one. I've been doing it very much lately. But somebody brought up the Gable film, and I don't know if you're familiar, Pat, with the Gable film. Are you?
What is it?
It's allegedly a video of a dog man or, a wolf-like creature, a canine type creature that attacked this guy. Anyway, it came out a couple of years ago in like the late 2000s, I think it was. And it's just this weird, it's just random video footage of like a car and some guy chopping wood. And then it just cuts to this like animal attack and then it cuts off. Well, then there's part two. There's the Gable film part two. And part two shows the guy that we saw earlier chopping wood. It has been like cut in half and like he's basically been disemboweled and there's like police and crime scene. Anyway, a lot of people thought this was real. And they thought that it was an actual dog man or, what have you, until Monster Quest did an episode on the Gable film. Not only did the guy who made it came forward and said, hey, I made this, he also showed the crew of Monster Quest exactly how he made it. He put on a ghillie suit and did the exact same run. They filmed it. It was the case closed as that guy. Well, people still believe that this thing is still real. As a matter of fact, they say that they think that what it is that the government made this guy come out and say, no, it was all fake because they're trying to cover it up that it was real. And, so I just kind of mentioned, well, it's silly. They've done a full recreation of this video. What more do you need to know that it's fake? Like,
I would need motivation for the government to go through all that trouble to try to fake to try to suppress the Dogman video.
Right, because who really listens to this shit? Let me tell you something. This community is very small. It's very small. There's only a couple thousand of us that even believe in these fringe ideas to begin with. Let's just be real. There's some people that kind of dabble in it. A lot of people kind of dabble in it, but really be into it like we are.
It's not a threat to the fabric of national security or anything. I mean, it's encrypted. Like that's unless it's like if you tug on the thread of the Dogman sweater, you're going to unravel fucking everything, and the Dogman are really the secret to like
there's people that think
fluoride
that like
in the water or some
because
shit.
People think that Dogmen are Nephilim, and if we prove that Nephilim are real, then we prove that the Bible's real. I swear to fucking God, they're nuts. So I said that. I made a comment. I said I think it's silly that anybody thinks that this film.
You're not nuts. Your money's good here. Buy a fanny pack.
Buy a fanny pack.
Be good. Don't listen to her. She thinks you're nuts. I think you would look ravishing in a fanny pack. That's what I think of you, Dogman lovers. Send us your money.
Well, you're right. You're right about that. I
need to start pulling. If I could sell enough of these fanny packs, maybe I'll have enough money to join Bailey J's Patreon, and I can listen to her podcast again, and I can look at her fucking pictures that she posts. That's what I want. That's my whole goal. If I could somehow get this podcast to fund me following another podcast.
Listen, I'll tell you that right now. In any fanny pack sales go straight to Pat and his Patreon fund. So I'll make that promise today. There you go. So
or if someone wants to sponsor, I guess I'll do that fucking because yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. If anyone wants to sponsor me following Bailey J's podcast on Patreon, you just contact. Call 773.
You don't even know the phone number. 773-59. Weird.
Right, and volunteer. I think it's like $5 a month or something.
Anyway, yeah. You can call. You want to be a Pat sponsor? That'd be great. But Anyway, so yeah, so somebody, I mentioned what I thought about it, and I said it was silly. It was silly that people believe that this video, which has been completely debunked,
Right.
is real. And it hurts. It hurts the actual scientific community and the study of this shit. It really does. When you keep, pushing fake shit out there. Well, anyway, somebody jumps on there and they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm silly," and I'm like, "Well, yeah. I asked, what more do you need? What makes you think that this is real? Why was that not enough? What would make you believe that this has actually been debunked?" And then they just came at me and they're like, "Well, then I guess you think Barton Nunley is silly because blah, 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 blah." Let me tell you something about Barton Nunley, okay? Barton Nunley is another researcher, and I might get in trouble for this, but he's allegedly another researcher in the field. Barton Nunley goes out in the woods donning like 6 fucking swords. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you. This man goes out there in his fucking hat and his fucking six swords.
They always got hats, don't they?
Listen, Barton Nunley's worst adversary is a goddamn tree branch, because if the guy fucking trips and falls, he's screwed. He's screwed. He's covered in six swords. I mean, and so it's like, sure, he wrote a book, but who gives a shit? I'm writing a book. Who cares? Anybody can write a book. So it got to me. So it's like, you really want to start pulling out dicks and measuring here, because I'm out in the same fucking, I know where Barton goes. I'm out there too. I've been out there. And, it's whatever. I mean, fine. The guy bought the rights to it. Cool. He's a fucking dumbass. I'll tell you, he's dumb for doing that. I mean, just to have a notable piece of history, because it was a big deal. When it came out, it was a big deal. Sure, I can understand that. But if you bought the rights to it, he's trying to push that shit like it's real, then you're a fucking moron for following Barton Nunley too. So there you go. There's that. I said it. Because I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the fairy tales and the bullshit. Like, I'm here for the science. I'm here to prove something. Like, and whether you believe that it can be proved or not, I don't really give a shit about that. That's why I do my job, and that's why I do what I do. Like, yeah, I got a show, but the science is important to me. So, fuck off with your Barton Nunleys and your fucking whoever else. I don't care. So there you go. There's my hot take. Normally I don't talk shit about people on the show. I really don't.
I think you should do it more often.
Maybe I should, because it's frustrating. It really is very frustrating. I don't sit down and go and talk to these people. Like, I've wasted so many hours talking to people whose stories are probably bullshit, but I've also met some really amazing, really interesting people. I put a lot of time and effort into this. I work more than anybody that I know on a weekly basis, doing things like this. And so when people, want to come along and they want to fucking cling to the idea that this video that is fake is real, and they just refuse to look at it otherwise, I mean, it makes me not want to do the shit anymore, because nobody's ever going to take it seriously, because you fucking morons want to believe in fake made up stories. It's sad. It's really sad. So there's my take on it.
I'll challenge the guy to a sword fight.
I
have a collection of Swap-orama katanas. And we would have to use practice swords, because I'm not trying to lose a fucking hand from this guy.
You know what? If that's his thing and his thing is swords, like, that's cool. He thinks he's going to take down a dog man or something with a sword. Like, that's fine. Like, you know what, Barton, I believe in you. You do you. Carl Sagan said something about, if somebody's wrong, I let them be wrong, because, the chances of that individual existing anyway is like 1 in a quadrillion billion or some shit like that. He said some shit like that, and he's absolutely right.
I love it.
He is right. Whatever the fuck it was that he said, but it's true though. It's true. You want to be wrong. You know what? That's on you. You're allowed to be wrong. That's fine. But I'll say this: I don't know Barton personally. I've never talked to the man. I've never read his book. I would give it a try. It's just that I haven't really had a reason to. So,
oh my God, you are a boiling over pot of Italian fucking gravy tonight. I love it. It's just hot and bubbling and like fucking.
It just makes me so mad, because there's just so much misinformation out there, and I'm trying so hard to be against that. And you see people like fucking Barton Nunley. He's a big dude. I mean, he's not a big dude. I mean, he's not physically, but like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people in the community know who the fuck he is. I'm sure a lot of you listen to this know who he is, and a lot of you listen to this are probably pissed off because I feel this way about him. But let me tell you something. It's bullshit that people like Barton Nunley get attention when they're not honest and open investigators. when they fucking thrive off of bullshit and fairy tale. It just makes me so mad. Whatever. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm done bitching.
All right.
I'm off my soapbox this week.
That's all good.
But speaking of things that don't exist, this week we're talking about possessions. So just kidding. I'm not gonna open with that, but I just did.
Damn.
So it's October. Happy almost Halloween. It's the best time of the year. I you know, okay, I'm going to save my opinion for the end here. So, as you can see, we're going to talk about possessions. I think that we should talk about not just demonic possessions, but I think that's probably the most popular, right? But I don't know how I feel about this one. So basically, like I said, the most popular form of possession that people talk about is demonic possession, which makes you do terrible things. It makes you a really bad person. But not just that, there are other, tall tale signs of demonic possession. Just again, doing awful shit, speaking languages that you couldn't speak before, contorting your body in ways that it shouldn't be used in, and things like that. There's also possession like in churches. Actually, somebody else brought this to my attention. In churches, you have people that will, they say that they're possessed, that they've been possessed by the Holy Spirit, so they'll start talking in
Right.
tongues and things like that. There's also possession where you have oh my god, why is the word slipping from me? This is what the show is about, pretty much. Where you
Demonic
have
possession?
what's that?
Demonic possession?
No, demonic possession was the first one. No, where you have where you basically act as you're like a medium where
Okay.
the spirits are speaking through you,
Uh,
or something like that. That is also a form of possession. So we have all these different types of possession. It basically is what it is a spirit taking over your body of whatever origin, evil or good or whatever. Is kind of what we have here. Pat, what do you know about possessions?
wow. So I didn't even think about the possessed by the Holy Spirit thing. I have notes on 2 points that I wanted to bring up. Um, and I guess, but I want to I'll get into the Holy Spirit possession thing once, because I witnessed that a couple times as a kid growing up.
Yeah, because you went to the Catholic school, didn't you?
Yes, but that's not, Catholics don't do that shit.
I don't know what they do.
No,
Who does
no,
that then? I don't
please.
know.
Well, in this case, they were Protestants. But
Oh,
what happened was there was a youth group that a bunch of. So I went to an all boy Catholic school. Well, it wasn't Catholic necessarily. I went to an all boy school. There was an all girls school in the neighborhood, and next to the all girls school was a small Protestant chapel called Maranatha that had a youth group on Thursday nights, and they some of the kids would go there, some of the girls would go there, and like me and my guy friends, like, you're a kid, you don't really have anything to do on a Thursday night, we would go. And sometimes we'd hang out in the parking lot, we wouldn't really go in. It really became like a hangout thing for a couple months, where, like, a lot of people would go and just hang out in the parking lot, and then some people would go in and we would see the service. Well, I probably went like the first time or two and like didn't really go in, and then eventually I went in and I checked it out, and it was different. It was interesting for me because the only thing I was used to at that point was growing up Catholic, going to Catholic services, which are very, Catholic services were in Latin probably up until the 70s or so. Like, you wear like, you know, khakis and a polo to it. It's very straight laced. There's a lot of kneeling. It's very like proper church, right? And Protestant services are traditionally like more laid back. Like the church that I belong to now, that I do the music stuff with, like there's people that wear like Hawaiian shirts and shorts to that shit in the summertime. Like people just kind of wear whatever, and it's all about like deformalizing the experience with God, and that's why, like, Protestant services, sometimes they have bands that play and they have other things. It's more like a personalized experience with worship, I guess you would say. Okay, so we were going to these youth group things as a kid, and they had it was the whole, like, when I went, there was a lot of emphasis on demonic, like, influence of like media,
okay.
And I remember like one service I went to, people were bringing in records to throw out, and there was like a garbage can full of records, and kids could bring up like records and CDs and throw them out. And one kid had a fucking copy of Garage Days, which is like, it was like this Metallica import where they do a bunch of cover songs, and I was like, we need to fucking steal that. Like, that thing's worth like $70. And then there was, so that's, and then it got to that, and that's when I really started like paying attention, because I'm like, this is some crazy shit. Like, we're throwing out records now, people are bringing in movies, and like there was that whole thing. And then the service after that, this woman came and was talking to the kids about how like you can get influenced by this stuff and it possesses you. And then from there it kind of like started to you could tell I'm not really prepared to tell this story because I'm fucking all over the place.
It's
But
okay.
from there it went into, I remember they were doing the whole, kids were like speaking in tongues, and then like they'd put the hand on them and the person would fall down. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
and you see it a lot, like when they do like the like, you know, not the 700 Club, but like Benny Hinn or shit.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
I
Like,
do.
yeah, and it was like that, and they started doing that, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "This is fucking nuts." I'm like, there's no, this isn't real." I'm like, "These people are faking it," but it really freaked me out because of the sincerity of like, have you ever been around youth group kids?
No.
They're very intense, and it's like, you know, I was a kid that went to church my whole entire life and was an altar boy and stuff. But I also like smoked weed and jerked off and like had premarital, like I was a normal person, but like the church was just kind of part of my life, you know
I
what I
was a
mean?
normal person. I jerked off and smoked weed.
And like fucked around, like I, you know, I had like premarital sex, but like then, but there was like these youth group kids that like took it really seriously,
Yeah.
and like thought that like Jesus would hate them if if they watched like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something. And I was just like, I would go to church every Sunday too, and I went to Catholic church where like we had to dress up and kneel, and I still felt zero problem with like going home and watching Dawn of the Dead and like fingering my girlfriend, you know. And so I had like a very casual relationship with organized religion where it didn't become my whole entire life, but it was still there, and I still respected it, and it still kind of did its thing. But I never like, I don't know, and I never had like weird Catholic guilt either. But these youth group kids are like not like that, and they went all into it, and they were very rigid, and they would have very like their relationship with God was the most important aspect of who they were as a person, and it would make them very combative towards things that they viewed as being um, running counter to God's messaging or whatever, you know, which always was weird to me because you know, Jesus's thing is like all about acceptance and stuff, right? So like, how can, you know, you're talking about a guy that had a live and let live philosophy and hung out with prostitutes and tax collectors, like, yeah,
Right.
how are you going to sit there and
Yeah.
be
Well, so
fucking
I mean,
judgmental and like
when you
burn
witness
records and
this
shit? Like, that's
happening,
fucked up. Yeah, I know, I'm all over the place.
well,
I'm sorry.
when you witness this happening, no, it's okay. I mean, how did it seem legit? I mean, did it
No, it
like
didn't.
what?
But
I
what?
mean,
No, not at all.
okay.
But what was crazy about it was that I didn't know whether or not the people were acting or whether or not they thought this was really happening. And there, I knew they were not possessed by the Holy Spirit, but I don't know if I don't know what was going on in their head. And when that's eventually why I stopped going, because I sensed that there was something dangerous about it. That level of fervor, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was like, these people are fucking crazy, and he's working these, and so I stopped going, and he got thrown out of that church like a couple months later. Like, that was like the beginning of the end for him in general. And he ended up that pastor, his name was Pastor Dean, he ended up bouncing around the South Side trying to do a youth thing for a youth ministry for a while. And I don't know what ended up happening to him. I ran into him like 5 years later in a completely different setting, and he was still trying to peddle his shit. But yeah, man, I don't think that shit was real, but I think the people, I don't know if the people that were experiencing it thought it was. You know what I mean?
But like, how could they experience it but not know if it's real or not? They either knew that they were putting on airs or they did not.
Yeah, you know how many people probably convinced I had a cold for 2 weeks, and I convinced myself many a time that I thought I had COVID. I didn't have COVID, but I was sick. I had a runny nose and a cough, and I thought I did. People are wrong about shit.
People are wrong about shit. You're right.
Yeah.
Barton Nunley is one of them.
Mandela
Um,
effect, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
how do
No,
people convince themselves anything goofy? Like, they just
yeah.
do.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's a good point.
And
I mean, go
I think
ahead.
it's a touch of mental illness, and I think we're gonna get into all this stuff in
Yeah.
other places too. But I think it's the desire to believe, it's the power of will, it's it might even be a little bit of fucking magic of them reshaping reality around the fucking force of their will and what they
Sure.
want to have happen.
Sure.
You know,
Well, let me say this. Possession is not something that is only recognized in one cultural aspect. It's recognized in multiple. So that is really interesting to me. I mean, of course, as a person who's very, anti-Christianity, for the most part, it's just not anything that I've ever really subscribed to. I mean, not just that. Like, do you know how many allegedly haunted items that I owned? Possessed items. Nothing ever happens. Like, you know,
right?
you know how many haunted places I've been to in general, and nothing ever really happens. Sometimes it does, and it makes you wonder. But for the most part, I'm going to tell you, probably about 95% of the time, when we go somewhere to investigate a paranormal event, nothing happens. So possession to me is very much a paranormal, happening. And that's just not really something that I've completely made up my mind on yet. I've never been in a room with a possessed individual. That's never happened yet. I would like for it to happen. I would like to witness it myself and see, what I think. But when I pick apart some of these cases, you know, uh, the for the most part, I think I've made up my mind on how I feel about them. So we should probably talk about some of them, huh? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, the most notable one that I can think of that always comes to my mind whenever I think of, classic demon possession is of course Annalise McKell. I think that her story is interesting because when I was a teenager, that movie came out, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and that's what it was based off of, was her case. And initially I was fascinated by it because I was really fascinated by by the court aspect of it. But Annalise was a girl from Germany who, at the age of 16, she had a seizure, and from that point on, things just got kind of really strange. So because she had the seizure, she started seeing doctors. They diagnosed her with epilepsy, but then she was also diagnosed with depression and things like that. Um, but she just kind of slowly started getting worse and worse. I mean, she just started to become sadder. She started having hallucinations of, objects and voices and things like that. They tried to medicate her. It wasn't really doing anything. And then it just continued to ramp up to drinking her own urine and things like that. Now, she herself had decided that she was demonically possessed. She said that, and she wanted to get an exorcism. She wanted to go through that and, go through that process. So it really ramped up there. And, as how long does this go on for? I think this went on for a couple of years, technically. But the exorcism themselves happened over the course of a couple of months. And, she ended up dying. She ultimately died from dehydration and malnutrition. And it turned into a really big to do. It turned into a big court case. They didn't know if they should charge the families, they should charge, the people performing the exorcism. It was crazy. But, this case to me seems like it was pretty clear cut and dry mental illness, right? We have this track of her, experiencing a traumatic brain injury, which does typically bring on mental illness in a lot of people. And, from then on out, it's like her mental state just kept dwindling, which makes sense because what we know about now about a lot of these, really intense mental illnesses is that they don't trigger until later on in life anyway. Um, it doesn't sound crazy to me to think of somebody like, say, with schizophrenia, for them to believe that they are possessed. I mean, that sounds actually, I mean, that's what it sounds like, schizophrenia. If you know anything about it, that's what it sounds like. But
I
that was
sure
one of
do.
yeah, I mean, right. I'm sure you do. But so it's one of those things. I mean, and eventually, I mean, she died because she was refusing to eat. She was refusing to drink and things like that. Now, um but there were things about it. You can listen to some of the recordings that they, during their exorcisms of her, and she would speak in languages that she didn't know, had never known, had no way of knowing. Her voice would change, and it would change, you know. But we know that voice acting's a thing now. I mean, so what was it? Are you familiar with this case?
No, not at all.
Not at all, really. Well, have you
No,
seen the movie?
no,
Oh, you haven't seen the movie. The movie Exorcism of Emily Rose. It's really good.
no.
It's really. I mean, it is. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty goddamn accurate to the events that happened, and it was horrifying to me. I remember I went to homecoming and we put it on. I went and stayed the night at some boy's house. There was a bunch of us, and we watched this movie, and it was back in the days of DVDs and DVD menus, and after everybody fell asleep, the DVD menu kept playing over and over again, and it was horrifying. So it wasn't a good time. But anyway, but no, it was a pretty crazy thing. I mean, she would, like I said, she would move her bodies in ways that you shouldn't be able to move your body. She was playing with feces, and usually that's what happens. They start doing really disgusting shit. They start being overly sexual, things like that. So that's one case that I know about. That's a good one. Um, Sorry, I'm getting fucking attacked. My cat won't leave me the hell alone today. I'm just having a hard day.
All right. I'll give you a second. So I didn't have a specific case that I wanted to talk about, but I did want to talk about I guess biblical cases in general,
Okay.
because that was, obviously that's kind of how we started off, was talking about, demonic possession and
Sure.
how it's related in the Bible. And something that I thought was very interesting is that there's an interesting distinction being made in the Bible between people that, and there's definitely Old Testament possession, but I'm going to kind of veer this conversation towards New Testament possession, and
Sure.
specifically Jesus healing people from possession, performing exorcisms. But what's interesting in the Bible, and this is something that leaped out at me, kind of from Jump Street, is that it makes a big distinction between Jesus healing people of legitimate physical ailments and Jesus healing people from demonic possession, right?
Okay.
So there's kind of this misconception that back in the day, people attributed everything to demonic possession, right? Anything that you had wrong with you, you had wrong with you because you had demons in you.
Sure.
And even if you look at some of the symptoms that the Bible outlines as being causes of demonic possession, blindness, dumbness. And when I say dumbness, I mean like you can't fucking talk or whatever, that stuff is sometimes attributed to demonic possession. The young girl had a demon in her that prevented her from speaking, or that caused her to be blind, right? But then you'll see other cases in the Bible that where those same exact symptoms are attributed to physical ailments, right? So the reason I bring this up is that the Bible makes a very clear distinction that sometimes people are possessed and sometimes people are just sick. Not everything is caused by demons, but some shit still is, right?
Okay.
And I guess that really struck me as being um, interesting, because you would think the natural tendency would be for them to attribute everything to demons, right? And no, there seemed to be some metric that they went off of. That there were possession cases, there were people being possessed, and there was also people generally getting ill, and they knew how, even then they knew how to distinguish between the two.
Hmm.
And the fact that they were distinguishing between the two doesn't mean that the possession cases are more likely accurate, but there was something about those that made those more supernatural in their origin. And supposedly he was able to heal both, but I mean, we're not going to get into that for right now. So that's a thing that I wanted to bring up. I thought that was interesting because I know, like, kind of what we're going to say nowadays. Like you brought up the schizophrenia, that
Right, sure, and that's just one of varying. People that aren't schizophrenic aren't bad people, but mental illness in general, sure. Um, going off of that, you kind of mentioned that there's this like criteria and whatnot. And of course, more more stuff. Kind of branching off of that, I'll talk about another case here that you might know a little bit something about. It's about Ronald Joseph Defoe. You know who that is?
no.
No idea. You know who it is. It's the guy who killed his whole family. And it's the inspiration for the Amityville horror story. So while I'm shitting on everybody during this episode, I'm going to bring up the Amityville horror case. So Ronald Defoe killed his entire family one night. It was his parents, his two brothers, and his two sisters in their house in Amityville, Long Island. Everybody knows the house, right? And what was interesting about this case was that there's a lot of questions surrounding it because nobody really knows how the family died because there were no signs of a struggle. And Defoe said a couple of things. He said that he drugged them. He did have a shotgun, but obviously they weren't shot. But they did a toxicology report. There weren't any drugs in the system, but weird stuff happened. Like he had been talking about collecting on his father's life insurance recently, and things like that. And so some people believe that what had happened in that case, and the reason why they think that is because of the story that followed. But they believe that maybe they were killed by demons and Defoe himself was demonically possessed. Okay. And the reason why they think this was because a family ended up buying the house, the Lutz family, who ended up reporting all kinds of paranormal happenings within the household. And they knew the story beforehand. But there was so much activity that they called in two famous demonologists, which is Ed and Lauren. Oh my gosh, Ed and Lorraine Warren. I can't say
how could you?
Because I don't like them. They suck. I don't give a shit what your names are. You just suck. But anyway, so they called the Warrens in to investigate, and the Warrens were like, "Oh shit, this place, my God, it has just happened with activity, and this is tied to that guy and his family that he killed his whole family. It must have been possessed, and this, that, and the other." Well, I mean, what we know about Defoe now is that the guy obviously had some mental illness. He probably did drug his family. It's just that at the time that this had happened, we just didn't have the science to really prove what had happened and whatnot. I mean, gosh, the whole family's dead, and this guy's like, yeah, I did it. So I mean, what does that tell you? He actually just died this year in March of 2021. I didn't know that, but anyway, so this was the 70s, and he killed the whole family, and then the Warrens went on to make a bunch of money because of the Lutz family came out and said, oh, this house is really evil. If you actually look into that a bit more, the guy that helped them write the story, because they turned it into a book called The Amityville Horror, the whole thing into a book. The guy that helped wrote the story, openly admitted that the Lutz family was kind of coaxed and into admitting certain things that weren't actually true, and the guy as a writer was told to write things that weren't true, and it's just all kind of a big to-do. So, I mean, that's not a really good... It's probably one of the more Hollywood famous cases of demon possession than anything, but it was probably all bullshit. You know what I mean? Now, poltergeists are a different thing than regular ghosts. Poltergeists are they're not spirits. A lot of people don't realize this. A poltergeist is when you have pent up energy within your household that makes shit happen, opens and closes doors, moves objects, but it's not an actual being that's making that shit happen.
I am so glad that you brought that up, because that was something that I wanted to argue with you about earlier when you were saying that you don't believe in haunted houses. you've been to haunted places and stuff. And I was going to say, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of shut down mental health facilities in downstate Illinois. And I know people that have gone to them and kind of fucked around in them and stuff before. And the stuff that they've reported totally, I guess, fits more poltergeist stuff than a haunting or whatever.
Right. It's not the same thing. And a lot of people think that it is. Now, I believe in energies because that's fucking real. We can prove energy exists.
Right.
God damn it. I'm going to kill this cat. Go away. Go, go, go. I love my cats, but this guy's being such an asshole right now. Anyway, so poltergeist energy is definitely a lot different than like the typical haunting. So, could the Lutz family have been experiencing shit like that? That's what it sounds like to me. When you really break apart the case, and I'm not going to do that today. I didn't prepare for that. But when you go and break apart, their case like that, it does seem a lot like they had a lot of poltergeist energy. But then again, they had this fucking tragic event happen at that house. So that's probably why. I don't, that's weird. But that's another really famous one. It's kind of, was that guy possessed by demons? No, probably not. Did they make him kill his family? Again, no, probably not. He probably just killed his family because he's an asshole. So.
Because he's an asshole.
Because he's
You
an
know what an
asshole.
asshole does on a Wednesday afternoon, Pat? He kills his fucking family.
You're
That's
right.
what an
I am
asshole
on
does.
one today. I don't know. Like 6 planets in retrograde. This is me. During
Your Midwestern accents flaring up. You're just
getting all mad. I'm having a good time though. So yeah, that's another really famous one. That people don't. I mean, not that people don't talk about, but that a lot of you probably know about. And it's kind of funny because I keep mentioning these possession cases, and they're kind of running alongside horror films, right? You don't hear about them a lot. Alleged demon possession is not like super common. So
Well, that kind of brings me to my next point, which is something once again kind of off topic, but adjacent at least. So something I wanted to talk about is something that an ex-girlfriend told me once, and she was one of these psychic magic wielders that was constantly off guard by life and bouncing checks and whatnot. And she explained to me the idea of generational curses. And that is a concept that always stuck with me for some reason. Not saying I fully subscribe to it, but there was something that always I don't know. When she explained it to me, it just kind of wow, and stuck in my head. And as the saying goes, the truth has a certain ring to it. And I always thought there was something about that. And basically what the idea of generational curses is that if something happens, if somebody does something that's so heinous that it can be passed down to your offspring. And it's kind of an Old Testament idea, right? There was,
okay.
I think it goes far back as, I believe it's Exodus. It's the second book of the Bible where it was some of the Jews fucked up real bad and they had generational curses placed upon them. And it's like addictions or mental illness, things like that. But I mean, taking a step back, we can attribute those to, trauma and unhealthy coping mechanisms that are just kind of passed down through the family anyway, right? Like if your mom or dad is an alcoholic, there's a chance you're going to be an alcoholic too. And it's not because of a possession or a generational curse. It's just because that's the way that you were raised. That's the kind of environment you were in. Same thing with mental illness. We know that that's a genetic defect, whether or not it's actually genetically caused or because of the environment that you were brought up in. Depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, stuff like that. Like, it makes sense that gets passed down generationally without the supernatural necessarily getting involved, right? But I think being somebody that does have some of the negative qualities of my parents, it's an explanation that I don't necessarily want to throw out the window.
Okay.
Maybe it might be just simply a matter of me trying to shirk responsibility for my own shortcomings in life. You know what I mean? Maybe some of the reasons that I do the things that I do is because of a generational curse. and not just because I'm an asshole because I was raised by assholes. I don't know. I don't know if there always needs to be a supernatural explanation for this kind of stuff, but I'm definitely interested by this one. I kind of like to keep it uh, on my palate. So
Okay. Oh well, absolutely. I mean, you're totally within reason to do so.
have you are you familiar with that concept?
No,
Really, really?
really.
Okay, yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing for like I said, it's a thing for Christians too because it's brought up in the Bible, but it's also a thing for some spiritualists. It's how they explain like they're unlucky in love because of a generation. All the women in this family, their marriages end in divorce, and it's because your great great grandmother seduced a carnival performer, and a gypsy put a curse on our family. So now all the women fucking die alone, right? Like that kind of bullshit.
I mean, I guess I know that much, but as far as like why or what, it doesn't even make any sense to me. But maybe that's because I don't really have I didn't really grow up with like traditional family. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I think family's kind of bullshit. So I don't. It doesn't hold too much for me. My mom was adopted, so like now what? So now you're telling me that my mom's actual birth parents, because they're her great 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 grandmother from years ago, fucked the local clergyman. I mean, I don't know. You know what? Now we're in trouble and we're cursed. I just don't. I don't think it holds much. I don't see it. I could believe in karmic soul cycles before that concept, and that's your own soul, not contingent on your ancestors. So I don't
Yeah,
know. That's but I mean, I think it's okay if you want to explore that idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think life is definitely what you make it. And like if you were raised by like shitty ass parents who are always bitching because their life sucks and they're always just generally negative, then of course you're kind of going to grow up with that mark. And so instead of focusing on any of the good, you're already predisposed to focus on the bad. So I think it's something that you get in your own head about. The human brain
right.
is crazy, so I mean, I just don't really think that it's, I think that it's nothing more than that. I think you can retrain yourself to not be, I think you can retrain yourself to not be unlucky anymore. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. Well, I think the best way to frame it for me has always been the alcoholic parents, right? If you have alcoholic parents, then there's a chance that you're going to be an alcoholic because
You're
you
predisposed to alcoholism. Yeah.
or there's a chance you won't be because you're going to screw up watching them. Like I know just as many people that are alcoholics that have alcoholic parents. I know almost just as many that don't drink at all because they grew up in a chaotic
Yeah.
household.
Right.
You know what I mean? What I don't have a lot of is friends with alcoholic parents that have a perfectly normal, balanced relationship with alcohol. That's the one thing you don't get is to walk away unscathed. Either you swing in one direction or you swing in the other, but either way, you're fucking swinging, right?
Yeah.
What
Well,
the real minority in that are the people that are like, whatever, and walk away totally fine.
sure. Well,
And
no, you're absolutely right about that. That's
Right.
true.
And I think that's kind of where we put the generational curse thing. And I know this is kind of an off kilter thing to bring up in the same conversation as demonic possession. But I think what kind of the direction you're going to with your explanation for demonic possession fits in the same category as this as well. We're like, sometimes we do things because of nature, sometimes we do things because of nurture, and there's a very 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 small percentage of times where we do things because of supernatural interference, right? um
Yeah, I
so
mean, sort of. Well, I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna finish out this last case because
okay.
it's another big notable one. Kind of, actually, a lot of people don't know about it, but they know what it inspired. So, it is the exorcism of Roland Doe, Roland Doe, whatever.
Sounds like a fake
Um,
name.
it is a fake name,
Okay.
on purpose. So it is a series of exorcisms that were performed on a 14-year-old boy. It's pretty decently documented, but of course the boy's name is undisclosed. And most of them were performed by a priest named Raymond Bishop So, if any of the names sound familiar, it's because this is the inspiration for The Exorcist. And it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty boring. I mean, not boring, it's just pretty uneventful. Depends on how you feel about the subject, I suppose. So, Roland was an only child. He didn't have any friends really, except he was really close with his aunt. And his aunt was, what they referred to as a spiritualist. And they said that she ended up introducing him to the concept of the Ouija board and things like that. So, Aunt Harriet died. Oh, that's her name, Aunt Harriet. She died early, and when that happened, the family started experiencing, paranormal happenings in the house, weird noises, furniture, doors closing, things being broken, things like that. Except the boy started having strange things happen to him. He began levitating. Um, he started becoming increasingly violent. And things like that. It became very troublesome. They thought that maybe he could control objects with his mind because he can make things kind of fly across the room. He would talk again in another voice. He didn't like things like crosses and holy water. He wasn't cool with that. So, of course, the family was then trying to find, help for the boy. Eventually, he did end up being put into a psychiatric hospital where they would, continue to try to exorcise him. At one point in time, during one of the exorcisms, they had to stop it because he somehow the boy broke free of his. He was tied up, so he broke free of that. Reached into his mattress and pulled out one of the springs and started cutting one of the priests. So pretty violent stuff, but the bed would shake, all kinds of things. He broke one of the priest's noses. I mean, it was not good. But eventually they exorcised the kid, and he went on to live, according to one of the priests, he says he went on to live an ordinary life after that. And the guy's never come forward. Now, other people have like gone on to try to investigate the claims that were made, and what they found was that there was a lot of discrepancies in the story. I mean, for one, the kid was in a psychiatric hospital, you know, and obviously, if he was a very lonely kid and one of the most prominent adults in his life died, he was going through trauma. So it wouldn't be strange for this kid to act out, but other things, like I said, didn't really make sense. They found that, the place that they claimed that this made sense, which was Mount Rainier, Maryland, that didn't happen. The different stories, even like some of the priests that said that they visited him and stuff like that, they kind of later recanted some of their stories and said, yeah, no, I'm not making an official release on it. It just seems like a really strange it seems like a really strange story in and of itself, with a lot of things that don't really add up. Why did the kid never come forward? I mean, I guess if he was afraid because he thought that he was demon possessed, like a lot of these people do. That, like, again, going back to the Annalise McCall case, she thought that she was possessed. She wanted to be exorcised. That's what she thought was happening to her. But again, she's mentally ill. Can we really trust her judgment? Probably not. But I don't know. These are just big cases. Again, I've never been in a room with a possessed individual before to know kind of what's going on. Some of the stuff does seem pretty fanatical. However, what I can tell you is that I have been inside of a mental hospital, and I know what shit is like there. And those people can do some pretty seemingly amazing things because of the mental illness. My mother worked for a local, psychiatric unit way back in the 90s, and she's told me some really interesting stories about these people, and they're, we know that they're mentally ill. We know that that's the case. So I just don't know. I don't know if I buy demon possession. It just seems like the more you kind of start pulling at the strings of it, the more it all seems to point to the one thing. Could it be happenstance that that while it's happening, maybe they're experiencing poltergeist type activity? But again, it's my cat sneezing. This cat, I swear to God. Again, during that time in their life, they're all going through some really heavy shit, so you could have some of that leftover energy that makes it seem like something it's not. And if demon possession is a thing, why doesn't it happen more often? You know,
That's an excellent question.
like, why is this not popular? It's kind of hard to find. I mean, there's a couple of notable cases, and I mean, you can go back through and you can like read the case files and stuff of other ones, but it's not something that really happens a lot. But why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you look at during biblical times where it's, you couldn't throw a rock without hitting somebody possessed by something.
Right.
That's a really good question. I think that could be something that
I mean,
might be the most important question to ask.
you're talking demon possession here. These things don't give a shit about. They're not afraid of us. They're
Right.
not. There's nothing that we can do. We're humans. There's nothing that we can do that would stop them from possessing anybody they want to. So why is it not happening?
Well, um, unless it's just not always the exorcist bed spinning, unless it's
Well,
more
and
subtle, unless it's more, they realize that if you're trying to corrupt men's souls, which isn't that supposed to be the goal of demon possession?
I guess that's a good point.
That it would be more sublime, it would be more subtle, it would be through subtle manipulation, cultural manipulation. Don't what are you going to, if you're going to possess someone and you're going to edge them towards chaos, what's really to be gained from doing it to a 14-year-old girl versus a 40-year-old record executive or Hollywood producer?
Sure.
You know what I mean? To greenlit certain projects. I'm just trying to think, like, if strategically here, like if you're really trying to lure mankind into the, it's a pit of hell or something.
I mean, where do you draw that line though? Like, at what point do you say, no, this person's just a bad fucking person? Or you go, oh no, they're just that way because they're demon possessed. I mean, I suppose that depends on what ideas you choose.
Yeah, what you believe. Yeah.
Right. And you're all you can decide for yourself, what you think. Just personally, I just don't see, I just think people are bad people sometimes,
bringing everything full circle, going back to
Yeah.
the kids in that youth group that I was talking about.
Sure.
I think they would say that anything that, okay, if you believe in God's plan and you believe in his rules for us and how he wants mankind to live, that anything that leads you astray of that is demonic influence, is satanic influence. Well, I don't want to say satanic because I know fucking Satanists take that the wrong way. Is negative influence, right? So like if I honestly believe that, rock and roll music is bad because it it tries to convince me to, like, I don't know, not sleep with my wife or something. Like, I don't fucking know. This is also goofy. Who fucking knows? People are nuts. You know what I mean? And sometimes the moral gatekeepers are the craziest to fucking everybody.
Yeah.
They're the most fervorous and they're the ones that are really trying to hurt other people. But I think the really hardcore religious nuts are going to say that anything that doesn't have a Christ-like image, any music that's not Christian rock, anything that's not like a fucking, movie with a pure message, anything that glamorizes like sex and violence or something, all of that, and the people that make that stuff, all of those people are possessed by the devil. I think that's what they would say. You know what I mean? Anything that it's here's what's so nuts is that one of the things that came out one of the things that came out or that's going to come out this week with that congressional hearing about Instagram, I mentioned this in the intro, is that there was a report that they did where they talked about the negative psychological impact that Instagram has on young women's self-esteem. Okay. Now, as a woman, I'm sure you can appreciate that, right? Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we agree that we know that Instagram has a negative effect on young women's social self-esteem. So
Sure.
the people that know that and push it anyway, what do we think of them? Are we just going to say that they're greedy? Like, this is all about money. All they care about is money. That's it, right? Well, if you were a hyper-vigilant Christian, right, You could take that information and say these people are under the influence of the devil. Look at what they're doing. They are knowingly corrupting the hearts and minds of young women. They are making them hate their own bodies that God gave them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They are making them hate themselves. They're condemning them to a life of misery and loneliness and shame, right? And people would argue that things like Instagram are the product of it's got to be evil. It's got to be Satan. You know what I mean? The
Right.
enemy, as they like to say, capital T, capital E, the enemy. I'm not saying I believe that, but I know the rhetoric, and that's what the
Right.
rhetoric is. So,
Well, right. Right. I
okay,
agree. I agree with that. And I know there's going to be some people that'll listen to this show and they're going to be disappointed, because again, they want, well, gosh, this is definitely is going back full circle because they want to believe in something so bad. And maybe it's because maybe you've been in a room with a possessed person. And if you have, you should definitely call us at 773-59 weird and tell us about it. But seriously, maybe you have been in a room with a possessed person. Maybe you've seen a ghost and you don't like the fact that I don't really believe in them, because you've seen it and I can't tell you that your experience was wrong. And I can't. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here trying to tell you that, but think about this for a second. What if you were wrong? What if whatever it was that you experienced, because you were so emotionally invested in the experience that you were having, your brain then decided to kind of fudge the narrative a little bit and turn it into something that you're kind of vaguely familiar with, and that's possession or that's, ghosts or whatever it is. I mean, have
right,
you really gone back and have you really backtracked, really thought about the details of the situation while removing your emotions out of it? Probably not, because let me tell you, that's hard to do. And I'm not here to tell you that what you experienced didn't happen. I'm just asking that maybe you try to look at it in a different light and maybe pick it apart from there. I don't know. Again, possession's not something that I'm not a demonologist. I don't go around doing exorcisms and things like that. I probably never would, to be honest with you. Just because I'm just not, it doesn't tickle my fancy, so I don't know, it's not what I'm interested in. But when I look at these cases, I see a lot of misinformation being thrown around. I see a lot of things being twisted. I see a lot of, again, things that we can already kind of prove with science, but maybe not then we couldn't prove it with science. The Roland Doe case, that was in the 40s, we didn't have as much information as we do now. It is interesting to me that these people typically do end up in psychiatric hospitals, which is probably where they should have stayed, or what have you. Either way, it's very fucking tragic, whether it was demon possession or mental illness or whatever it was. It sounds like a lot of the times this ended up in tragedy for the family. Like the Defoe case, the Amityville Horror. I mean, he still killed his whole family. That sucks. That's not good. um and whatever you want to call that, whatever helps you sleep at night, whatever name you want to put on it, go for it. And I'm not here to tell you not to. Just my personal opinion is that, I don't subscribe to the idea, and fuck Barton Nunley. So that's I gotta stop. I'm gonna get canceled.
oh, no one's gonna cancel you. You're uncancelable.
Over the fucking sword guy. I'm just kidding. No, in all seriousness, don't let me tell you who to listen to either. And just use your fucking heads, guys. Think for yourselves. It's do a little bit of homework, and don't just because I say something is fact doesn't even mean that it's fact. I'm not even wearing clothes half the time when I do this show, you guys. Like, you can't.
I'm not wearing a shirt.
Pat's not wearing a shirt. You cannot take me very seriously. And you just decide. Don't pick a narrative and stick with it. Think outside the box of that narrative sometimes. And you might even land back to the same narrative that you had originally. Just because you have to look at the other evidence doesn't mean that you were wrong in the first place. Just keep an open mind. That's all I ask. So
I would say, if you're interested in demon possession, check out the Goshia. It's a book that I read many, many years ago. It's called The Lesser Key of Solomon. It's another name that it's known as. And it's basically supposedly Solomon, who was King David's son. cataloged all the demons in existence, and he wrote down
That's cool.
he wrote down their drew pictures of them, and he wrote down their sigils and what areas they govern, and all this stuff, and how to summon all of them. And it's a book that you can buy on Amazon, so just take that into consideration. And it's worth reading. It's worth checking out if the demon thing is your thing. And I'd also say that if it's something that if it's a thought that you're gonna entertain, consider the whole ramification of that belief system. Are demons
Absolutely.
real? Because it's I love people that only like buy half the story. It's like, look, if demons are real, then does that mean that God's real? Does that mean that Jesus is real? Does that mean the Bible's fucking real? Because if you're going to go down that road, you got to go down that road. Otherwise, you're just kind of committing to half truths, and you're treating everything like it's a fucking old country buffet.
Sure. Yeah. Do your homework.
Right. Exactly. I think that's what it comes down to. Do your homework, and
Do
then
your homework.
make an informed decision, and listen to your heart.
Absolutely. And don't just go fucking calling out demons. Like, that's stupid. I've never met a demon, but I'm not going to be like, hey, let's, hang out, demons. Don't do that. Because if it is real, then you're kind of fucked. So don't fuck yourself, unless you got a nice sock and a bottle of Lubriderm ready. That's, that's the only self fucking we accept around here. But we talk about masturbation a lot on the show. That's weird.
We're horny.
Every episode is about masturbating. On Wednesdays, we masturbate. I'll stop now. But no, seriously, don't go doing that dumb shit because you're an edgy edgelord. Like, don't go disrespecting other people's religions. Just don't do that. It looks bad. This is a very preachy episode today. I'm sorry about that.
Well, hey, when we're right, we're right. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good. Well, the planets and all are, they're pissed off or whatever, and now's the time to, I guess, teach some lessons. So if you didn't learn anything, when
does this end? Because I've been sick for 2 weeks, 3
weeks. I mean, they end at different times. I think the Mercury retrograde ends on the 18th of October. So.
Oh my God, that's a long time from now.
Yep, it just started though on the 27th of September. So I'm sorry, the 28th. Anyway, but there's a bunch going on. If you follow that stuff, I don't know. I'll talk to you about it. But anyway, I don't have anything else to add. Do you?
No, I'm done.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, see you guys here next Wednesday.